Do you want to create hair images just like this? If you do, join me today for behind the scenes where I break down what's achieved in camera, how I build my lighting, and how I finish the images off in post-processing. Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here. I am regularly hired to shoot beauty campaigns. This is everything from skincare to cosmetic to hair shoots, and that's one of my favorite things because they are so beautiful and luxurious. So today I'm going to take you behind the scenes to show you what it takes to make those images. And fundamentally, it kind of is made in 3 parts. It's made by what you put in front of your camera, how you light your subject, and then how you finish the image off with your retouching. Now, that first part is so important. There's only so much you can achieve in retouching, so you want to make sure that you have a beautiful subject with great hair. And then, of course, you need to work with a wonderful team that knows how to style that hair and make it look shiny and voluminous. So you can see I already have a great subject in front of my camera. My team is wonderful. So now I need to decide, if I'm hired by a company, what is the best way to represent this brand? Is the brand a little bit more luxury, and maybe the image should be a little bit darker, more mysterious, a dark background, darker shadows? Or is it a little bit more commercial? It's lighter, more filled in shadows, it's higher key. And so that's going to make a big difference in how I choose to light my subject. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to go for something that's a little softer. I still want shine to the hair. We're going to go for something a little bit higher key, and it's going to be all about the beautiful color and shape of her hair. There is no one way to correctly light hair for a campaign. You can use natural light. You can light it with a single light and an umbrella, but today we're going to be using 5 strobes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build it in step by step so you can see how they layer upon each other. So what I'm going to do, we're going to turn off all of my lights, and we're going to just start with our main light, which is over here to the left-hand side. All right, so we have our main light over to the left-hand side of the frame, and I am using a big soft light source. Here, I'm using an extra large umbrella with diffusion. I could also use a 5-foot octabox, but the idea is this going to be just kind of the soft overall illumination to the scene that's going to shape the light on the face and the hair and give it that little extra shine. So now before I take the frame, let's actually talk about the gear I'm going to be using. I'm using the Canon R5 Mark II as my camera, and on it the 24 to 105 2.8. The reason that I'm choosing this is most of my shots are going to be head and shoulders. I don't need to be super tight because I really want to see all of that hair. So the 24 to 105 range is going to be perfect for that. All right, so let's start with our first light. So we have nice soft light on our subject, but honestly, this is not looking anything like a campaign. Like, the hair looks good, but it's lacking shine, it's lacking sparkle. And so one of the ways to give myself that sparkle is to layer in a little bit of hard light. This is something that I love to do for commercial shoots. We use a big soft light source. Could be an umbrella, could be an octa. Very often I use a large scrim. That just kind of softly lights the entire scene, and then we sprinkle in our hard light. So that is going to be strobe number 2. Layered just in front of that umbrella is a bare strobe. No modification on it at all. And we're going to use that just to add a little bit more texture, a little more shine to the hair. So let's add light number 2. You can see in the hair already that there's a little bit more of a specularity, a little bit more of a shine. This is so much better. So then, what do we add next? As I look at this, I think that the shadows are looking a little bit heavy. It's a little bit darker than I want. I lose some of the detail in the hair. The shadows underneath the chin are a little bit heavier. I want this to feel a little bit brighter and more commercial. So that's where we're actually going to add in our fill. There are many different approaches to this. If I want the fill to be really subtle and soft, you could use a big white reflector underneath the chin, or you could use a stripped softbox. But I want even more shine. I love that specular shiny look on the hair. It makes it look healthy. So our third strobe, our fill, is actually in front of the subject on a floor stand, and it is another bare strobe because I want that shiny light. So let's add the fill in and see what it's contributing to the shot. In this shot, the difference you'll see is now we've lifted and lightened up the shadows a little bit. There's more sparkle to the eyes. The hair is looking shinier. So I definitely think that third light was an improvement. So we've got our big soft main light. Then we have a hard light layered in front and then another hard light for fill. What else do I want to add? Well, I envisioned this shot for the brand in my head. I wanted it to be a little bit higher key, a little bit more glowing, which means a lighter background. Now, the background that I've chosen here is the Savage Universal Ivory. It's a little bit warm, but it's lighter, and it's just looking a little too dark. It's a little too saturated for what I was envisioning. So in order to lighten it up, I'm going to add another light. So we're adding our fourth light behind the subject on a floor stand again, and I am using this bare strobe just to lighten up the background, to overexpose it. Now, obviously I could switch over to a white background and go for pure white, but actually, if I have this just a tiny bit below pure white, it's a little bit warm and it's still high key. So that's actually the aesthetic that I prefer for this shot, because I'm envisioning the warm hair, the warm dress, the beautiful freckles, all of that coming together with just a dash of warmth in the background. So let's turn on our fourth strobe. And looking at this is much closer to what I envisioned, but I could certainly shoot on a darker background, a warmer background. It's all about the concept you're going for. So from here, we have 4 strobes. What else do I need to do? Technically nothing, but this is a hair shot. If I want the hair to really, really shine and glow, maybe a hair light would be appropriate. So our 5th and final strobe, you can see back behind the subject, we have a medium umbrella with diffusion. So basically a soft light behind her. Now this is on a larger stand, so it's a roller stand on a boom arm. So we can put it out back behind the subject. If you don't have a big stand like this, you could also try putting the light right behind the background, peeking over. But what this is going to do is it's going to just lighten the top of her hair a little bit and around the sides, which the whole point is to make the hair look shiny and healthy. This light is going to help us achieve that even more. So light number 5. This is a small change. I think it makes a huge difference. That little highlight on the top of the hair looks so beautiful. And now the brightest part of the frame is not the hair on the bottom. It's actually really beautifully balanced. Okay, so we've got 5 lights. We've layered everything in. Is there anything else I want? Well, as I look at the shot, maybe the shadow side of her face, I could make it brighter. It all depends on what you envision. This is not right or wrong for hair. So the last thing I'm going to layer in is I am going to bring in a white reflector on a stand just for a subtle, soft amount of fill. You'll see that the shadow side of her face has been lifted up just a little bit. And if I want to eliminate the shadow, I could bring the reflector in closer, or I could take my main light and center it a little bit more. Both of those things will give me higher key results, reducing the shadows just a tad bit. All right, so model looks great. The lighting looks great and fits the client that I'm envisioning in my head. So now it's time to get the shot. Now, one of the ways that you can shoot hair is just making everything perfect and clean and smooth. And I always start with those shots to make sure that I've got them before I mess the hair up, because then what we do is we bring in a fan, and the hair fan brings in a little life and energy and movement. And the hair fan that I'm using is the one that you would see on any big commercial set. This is the Real Effects Fan 2, and it is made specifically for this purpose. It's really powerful. It has a lot of variability. But I'll just put it this way, it's not cheap because it's intended for this very specific purpose. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the shot. And you'll notice how I work with my creative team, because I want to make sure that the hair is perfect. I want the hairstylist to be involved in the shoot, checking the images as they come into the tether, perfecting the hair, moving the hair with the fan for me. So this type of shoot is not something I do alone. It is something I do in conjunction with a wonderful and knowledgeable team. So let's get the shot. We just captured a bunch of beautiful images where we have clean hair, hair with movement. It's gorgeous, but doesn't quite look like the finished hair campaigns that I love so much, because that's where our retouching is going to come into play. So let's work on one of those images. We really did get a lot of beautiful images. And the one that we're looking at right here was one of the first shots we took, and the hair is just pristine and beautiful. So the first thing I want you to notice is just how good it was in camera, but it does need a little finessing. Now, realistically, if I'm hired by a big company for a hair campaign, there's a decent budget for a professional retoucher, and they will go in and literally get rid of every stray hair and make it perfect. But I have a little bit of a quick tip for you. We're going to be using a program today called Evoto. And Evoto is an AI retouching software. And one of my favorite parts of it is how it cleans up hair. So we are going to finesse this image, and just know that I'm going to show you how I would do this quickly. Realistically, if I were retouching this for a real client, I would take twice the amount of time to go in and make sure every detail was perfect. Okay, so where I want to begin actually has nothing to do with the hair. We're going to start with some blemish removal. I've dropped the image into Evoto. So what I did is I exported it out of the program that I was shooting tethered into, which was Capture One, exported it as a TIFF, and I've dropped it here into Evoto. Then I'm going into the retouching panel, the edit panel, and we're going to start with removing blemishes. Now, I'm going to drag the freckles and acne removing tool, but what you'll notice is she had some freckles, and it does get rid of some of them. So you can always dial that back and choose what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of. Now, the key in using tools like this is that you don't overdo it. If you drag every slider to 100%, then the person looks fake completely. So what I try to do is only remove the things that I find distracting. For example, another part of this that I want to smooth out a little bit is if you look at the texture just below her lip, it's just a little bit uneven there, and I want to smooth that out a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go down to the skin retouching, and we're going to go to burn and dodge. This is something that I've done by hand for years and years in Photoshop, but here I'm just going to drag the slider and see how it smooths it out. Makes it just a little bit cleaner, a little bit fresher with the skin. Okay, I'm gonna stop there with retouching for the face. I don't wanna overdo it, but the other thing I noticed that's a bit distracting are the red veins in her eyes. So we're going to scroll down, and I am going to go to the eyes panel, and I'm going to do the white eye enhance. I'm going to turn that on and keep the red vein removal to 100%. What you want to be careful of is you don't want them to look too much like they're possessed, where it's just everything is perfectly white. So a little bit of it being a little darker or not perfectly white is actually a good thing. So I'm going to back this off a tiny bit, and that's going to look a little bit more realistic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down to the section that's most important for what we're shooting today, which of course is going to be the hair perfection area. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to drag that slider that says stray hair removal, and I'm going to drag it to 100%. And there are two additional sliders underneath it. The first one says within figure outlines. So that basically means the hairs that are stray overlapping other hairs. And then the other slider says beyond figure outlines. And that basically means any hairs that are sticking out along the edges. And so you can really see what that means when I zoom in. I'm going to do a little bit of a before after. And so you can see how it's cleaning up some of those strays there. But where you'll really notice is here. You can see just how much it's perfecting the image. Realistically, for a hair campaign, someone is going in and doing this by hand. But to be honest, some of my hair clients, not every shot is going to be blown up massive. And instead, what they're doing is they're perfecting the images for social media or for how they're going to be sharing them online. And this is going to be more than enough. So that looks great already. It made a big difference in perfecting it. But there's a couple other sliders that are pretty fantastic. The next one is the smooth hair slider. I'll go to 100%, but usually that's too strong. And look what it did. It makes it look liquid, almost like that hair was painted. I don't want the hair to look too fake, so you have to use your judgment here. And I'm just gonna back off. In this case, maybe we'll go to like 20%. And so you can see before and after how we're building, making it smoother. And then the last slider that I love is hair shine enhancement. Basically what it's doing is it's looking where there already are highlights on the hair, and it amps them up, exaggerates them a bit. And so now it's looking really glossy. This is exactly what the hair effect is when we look at hair products on the packaging in stores. When you see that shine, they've enhanced the shine that was already there. So let's take a look at that hair perfection. It made a massive difference. So the key is here is taking a look at the brand. So the next thing to consider here is how far do you go with the retouching? If you're shooting for a brand that's meant to be fun and authentic and a lot of movement, you actually probably want to keep some stray hairs and you don't want it to be as perfect. But if you're going for a luxury brand that is all about that perfection and shine, maybe you push it a little bit further. My recommendation is do the retouch, step away, come back later and see if it feels too much. That's a good way to make sure that you're not overdoing it. All right, so very last tip for how I bring out the most in the hair is there's another tool that in Photoshop, it's called the forward warp tool or liquefy. There's a liquefy tool here in Evoto as well. And basically what it allows you to do is shift and move pixels around. So it's exactly what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go in the hair and when it bends out, I'm gonna bend it out more. When it bends in, I'm gonna bend it in more. It's basically just taking the shape and pushing it further. So now the hair will look even wavier. This is really important if you don't have an amazing hairstylist like mine. If they get it close, then you can enhance it even more at this step and it'll make it look even healthier. So now you can kind of see how I just exaggerated that wave. All right, so this is a look inside the tool called Evoto. What I can do from there is I can export it and it will be exported at the same original quality and resolution as the file that I brought into the program. And if I need to go into Photoshop, for example, if I prefer to retouch the skin there, or if I want to play around with other details, I can make that another part of the step. For example, if there is a little bit of a gap in the hair, if I go into Photoshop, I would use generative fill to fill that in. Or I could take pieces of hair and actually enhance them to look like they are flying or moving in the frame. That's something that I would do in Photoshop instead. So as we look at this, looks like a hair campaign and I was able to do it in a matter of minutes. So there you have it, beautiful images that are worthy of a high-end hair campaign. And to achieve shots like this, now you can see that it's no one thing that makes these beautiful images. It's several parts of the equation. First, you have to cast a beautiful subject with great hair and work with a wonderful hairstylist because then you're working with something beautiful that doesn't need a lot of post-processing. Then, of course, your lighting plays a huge role. What can you do to make the hair shine, make it look more voluminous? And then lastly is the retouching, whether it's filling in pieces of the hair or removing strays or making it look a little bit shinier. All of these pieces together, that's what gives you that hair campaign look. So if you want to see the gear used to make the images you see today, be sure to check out the links and the description below. And of course, when you're going to pick up this gear, visit Adorama.com. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time.